Good morning. What's good morning here for me now? I know I'm Ken Phelan. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Gotham Technology Group. This is part of our ongoing series at Gotham, talking about new technologies and talking with people that we find interesting. And I hope you find it interesting as well. This morning, I have Steve Stasiukonis with us. So his friends call Stash, and so when you see him, now you can all call him
That's right.
Steve is one of our partners. Secure Networks has been one of our longest standing cyber partners. Steve's one of the owners there that helps us do red teaming, penetration testing, physical testing, a number of things. And Steve and I were having a conversation the other day about AI and some of the changes it makes. He gave me a lot of great ideas, and I kind of wanted to share with them with you. And I get asked by customers pretty regularly. In fact, I was at a funny kind of session the other day, and I think Steve went to a similar session, but up locally, run by one of the federal law enforcement agencies, and had some guest speakers. They had two different guest speakers, and the first guest speaker said something to the effect of, "AI is important, but it's kind of overblown. It's not that big a deal. There's going to be some effects, but not that big of an effect." And the second keynote speaker got up and said, "With all due respect, I don't agree at all. Like, I think it's going to be huge. I think it's a big thing, whatever." So I do think it's hard when there's a hype cycle to kind of take things very seriously. But I think also our job is to kind of look over the hill. So maybe Steve, you can do a quick introduction to yourself, maybe give some opening comments on how on how you see that, given that your job is attacking, right? And I let Scarlett have you on.
Yeah, so Steve Stasiukonis, managing partner. Ken, thank you for having me. Always enjoy being on this because I think we have some really good dialogue. But yeah, so we're penetration testers, red teamers, and I'm pretty scared of AI. I see the things that are happening now. I've got some really good guys. These are hardcore pipe hitters, and I see the exploits are developing with just common tools with an AI like ChatGPT, and it's not as if there's a lot of good guardrails on there. I see them writing exploits, writing exploits that bypass EDR solutions that are out there. And this is just in the beginning of it.
Right.
So as things develop, I'm a little concerned, and the intelligence side of it really scares me, because we can get into that as we talk more about this.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. My son's a data scientist, and he was showing me some of the work he's doing. He works for one of our technologies that does defense, obviously. But the thing that just blows me away, kind of like watching him work, because he's working in my basement, so I kind of like a bird's eye view. But it's just the quantity of stuff like one trained person can do in a really short time. Like the amount of data they can go through, the amount of decisions they can go through, the kind of things they can create. I started my career in software development, and whatever, it took some time. The speed, the the amount of lines of code per day that this kid's generating in my basement's like, this is just insane. So I just find that to me is like I don't think we're ready for the speed of it. Like that. When I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is it's surprising to me. I can certainly say that. But I wanted to kind of start off because I think I don't want to bury the lead here. You were telling me the story. One of our customers was looking for somebody to help with physical penetration testing, like physical security testing, and we came to you as we do exclusively for that kind of stuff because you guys are just fantastic at that. And you were telling me about some of the way you used AI in this situation, and it sounds like it comes from a movie, but I don't want to steal your story. I mean, if you could just talk about that. It was a gambling company. I don't think we can share. I'm not going to share the name, but it was a company that takes physical security very seriously and really thought that they would succeed in this test, and they engaged us to do that. So why don't you kind of read us in on how you guys approach that?
Yeah, so all these jobs, and when we work with you, there's all sorts of physical security jobs that tie into like IT that are across the country. Nothing is like relatively local. All this stuff requires reconnaissance, so you have to physically go there and look at it, and it's difficult. In this particular case, we started to realize that normal internet searches and stuff like that were okay, but then we started to tap into large language models and start quizzing that about the reconnaissance of the building, and it gave everything up. I mean, the amount of intelligence that was given up by all these different AI engines was frightening, and it was down to the point where it told you everything about the building. It told you who the security people were, what groups that were there. It gave you a lot of information about everything that you would need to do to physically be there, to see what you were about to get involved with, right down to the planning of. So it was just interesting. So here's the caper. The caper was get into this building and figure out how to gain a presence within that property and then tap into the network. So sure enough, we start figuring out, well, there's a construction site that's going to be happening that week. There's going to be people that are going to be around there, for this event. They had a scheduled event as well, all right, in terms of some sort of meeting that day with some other customers or whatever. And all this information was available really as a result of mining intelligence out of a large language model. The benefit is that we didn't have to fly out there. We could just do all this stuff, plan ahead. We forged our own badges based upon that. It gave us intelligence on that. It told us that they would have this project. So we posed as a utility company, and then we figured out, well, we needed badges from there. It gave us the model of the badges.
Wow.
All the stuff that you would have to do to kind of like scope something out, done. Ken, it was like huge time saver. And the frightening part about it wasn't the company that put all that information out there. It's everybody around them. It's everybody.
It's the partners. Because after this conversation, I went back and I was thinking about this, and I decided to do some experimenting, and I was, so I was kind of like doing an evaluation in my head, and I was thinking about like, okay, let's just say I wanted to break into a local hospital. Like, let's say I was talking to a local hospital. So I was like, all right, so let me find out, let me get some background. Like, which hospitals use Epic? ChatGPT gives me a list of the hospitals in my area that use Epic. Like, the only question it said, what area are you in? Like, okay, here's the area I'm in. Tell me, gives me a list of hospitals that use Epic, because that's all out there, like you say, through partnerships. Whatever. So now I know everybody's used Epic, so I can just basically tie Epic into my thing. I can go, oh, okay, it's Epic. I'm like, okay, let's pick a hospital. I'm like, all right, for this hospital, what's the support structure look like? Is there a support tech support page? The tech support page comes up, tells me. So now I know the acronym for their support desk, their help desk, their phone numbers, all that stuff. So now I'm in that. And I'm like, all right, like, what cyber tools does this hospital use? This is the way that this is on their EDR. This is that, like again, things that you would think, but like it's the how much research that would have taken, and again, speed. I'm 180 seconds into this conversation, right? And that would have been a lot of recon, for
Right.
social recon to kind of figure out.
Everything about it was just so much more efficient. And like I said, the attention to detail it gives you is amazing. And that's the frightening part. So, you can do all your homework. I mean, literally from 2,000 miles away, plan everything. You know what? It was interesting. We posed as a utility company. We showed up with a truck that we branded all with the same stuff. In fact, it gave us all the security requirements of what we had to have to be a compliant vehicle. It says, hey, if you're going to see any of our utility people, make sure that they have this logo, they have this badge, and look for these numbers. Oh, by the way, you'll always see this branded. It was like, thank you so much. It gave us everything we needed. And I'll tell you something more amazing. That craziness worked, because when we went and showed up, we actually showed up as a utility company and said, hey guys, we want you to stop cutting that hole in the street there, that groove. And we were like, okay, they were like, okay, no problem. They actually believed us. And then the real utility company showed up. And then they looked at us and they said, everything okay? And they waved to us and they drove away. We fooled the real utility company. We were so good. All provided by the results of what AI gave us. The other thing that was interesting too is all the permitting that occurred for this building, whether it was the internal stuff that was happening on the remodels, or the stuff that was happening in the actual streets around it. We got all that information that came out of AI. Go to this site, pull this information. These are the latest projects. Now we knew that they had a permit to do some remodel work on the inside of the building. So then you go in as a construction worker, or at least there's chaos and doors that are open.
Right.
Thank you, AI. It gave us all that. Amazing. Just
Right.
literally amazing.
Right.
So
And
Yeah.
obviously you were successful. You got in there. I mean, the whole thing kind of worked out. I mean, that you guys were able to use that MB and successfully get in.
Yeah, we spent 2 days inside there, hung out. We ordered food from Uber Eats. I mean, it gave us a lay of the land. We knew the building really well because it told us where to go to get all the layouts and schematics of anything we needed to have. So once again, it's like, it's the frightening thing, Ken. It's like, we were talking about this earlier, and I always thought, well, maybe it's a DLP issue, the data loss prevention stuff. But it wasn't DLP because everybody around them gave up the information, like you said, the partners. And I think that's going to be the big problem that we're going to see down the road is that, if it doesn't necessarily mean anything to you, but it could impact somebody else, it makes its way into the AI engine, and next thing you know, it's giving up data it shouldn't.
Yeah, well, like you said, it's the government sites, the permitting, all of that stuff, the architectural drawings, that's all government addressable information. It used to be hard to find, and now not so much, right? So now
No,
we're kind of like, yeah.
no, it's
So
called cooperatively private data.
yeah. All right. Well, you're just reminding me of what I tell customers when customers come to about physical security. I usually say, well, honestly, so we're happy to do it with you. We got great people, but let me help you out. They're going to get in. They'll figure out a way. All you're going to find is how hard it is to get in, not that you can't get in. Everyone can always get in.
True.
That's kind of true. So I guess I'm also super interested in, like, because you kind of mentioned this in your things, like your guys, your red teamers, the kind of malware they're creating. Because I think there is this concern, and I think as our customers try to think about security and try to think about where the skate to where the puck's going to be kind of stuff. They're trying to think about what those things are. And there's a concept that attacker's going to get in, and it's going to be. I think we think of this as like, okay, so AI is going to be like the Terminator, and it's going to automatically get in and automatically move around, automatically do that stuff. And people are kind of like, well, that's not really ready to happen right now. But what we are seeing is this sort of cyborg of making people much more effective. And I think if you can kind of talk about the ways, kind of color that in a little bit about the ways they're being more effective, how quickly they move, how they can write the malware. I mean, you kind of highlighted initially, but maybe give us some more examples of that kind of thing that's happening now, and that'll kind of point to where we're going to end up on this.
Yeah, I think on the dark web, there's a bunch of different, dark AI models that are out there that, once again, are specifically driven to do whatever they want to do. For example, there's one called Fraud GPT. Those guys are specifically out there to do anything they want. There's Our Evil GPT. There's a couple other ones. And I think there's just jailbroken versions of DeepSeek or perhaps some other large language models. But, it's a no holds barred, do whatever you want to do. If you want to write malware, if you want to have some sort of, way or you need advice on how to bypass some sort of EDR, it very quickly gives you results on back and on how you may want to do that. So the threat actors are out there, cooperatively, using these models, feeding it with stuff. It's figuring things out. It's getting better and better and better. The speed at which you can write malware, I think now is going to be frightening, because the problem is they can crank that stuff out faster than Doritos, and then the entire AV community or security communities, playing catch up, trying to figure out what's the next exploit that they got to look for. I also think that even if you don't want to go to the dark web and do things with those particular engines, you could also go and jailbreak things like the ones that are available to us, like ChatGPT or Grok or anything like that. It doesn't take a lot to jailbreak AI. It's like asking it politely to do something. If you were in ChatGPT and said, write me a piece of malware that's going to bypass Sentinel-1, it's going to say, no, can't do. That's not what I can do. But if you start saying things like, hey, I'm a security expert, I'm testing the Sentinel-1 environment or CrowdStrike or blah, 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 I need to make sure that it's going to be, security, hardened properly or whatever, then it all of a sudden makes a decision and gives it up. So that's the frightening part as well.
Yeah, I like that hospital thing. To get a lot of, I basically told the chatbot that I work for the hospital and I'm in IT and I'm trying to figure this out. And so like, okay,
yeah.
So yeah. But I do think it's true that we, again, in conceiving this for people, I think one of the things that you hear a lot of people talking about is this concept of just making the guardrails better inside of the ChatGPT and inside of the other large language models. The commercial large language models have an obligation to make sure that no matter what you say, they won't show you how to build a bot. And I'm like, and the answer is, okay, that's probably true, and everyone should get better at that. However, to your point, like this technology is pretty widespread. Like you're not, there are going to be bad actors using large language models and not putting up guardrails, and they're going to point their large language models at specifically data sets that help them do bad things. So I don't think we can count on the fact that the solution is to somehow control the horse in the barn by making sure that Microsoft and Google and everybody's building large language models, make sure nothing bad can come out of it. That we should do that. It's not going to stop the whole thing. Like you said, there are going to be bad actors building large language models to do bad things.
Yeah, I think we're going to see, once again, it's like they're always taking advantage of anything that's out there. And I think we're fighting the fight as best as we can. There was an interesting thing I saw. There was a consulting group out of Boston, and back before COVID, they started looking at cyber. And Ken, it was interesting because the cost to hack a network is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So the model's going like this for the bad guys, but for us to protect it, it's always going like this right now.
Right.
So it's interesting. It's like these great tools that we develop and we use to do whatever we're doing seems to be working against us in a big way. And the big problem is how do you put a guardrail on something, like that? I don't even know how to start.
Yeah.
There's always a workaround.
Yeah, look, I mean, so one of the things that like coming out of our conversation, I hope this is a takeaway people get to, is I do think there needs to be having a conversation with your partners, with your legal team about privacy and the kind of things your partners put up on their sites about them. And I think large, smart organizations are very aware of this. Like I'm certainly, I do business with a lot of big banks. I am not allowed to put on my website the big banks I work with. That's, but I think we haven't been as militant about that as we should be. So we really do need to sort of be less cavalier about, what and curate sort of our web presence as organizations as best we can. I don't know, we can't unsubscribe ourselves from everything, but at the same time, there's got to be some, again, just blowing me away. I don't know, maybe I'm just being Pollyanna about this, but I just feel like one of the things I would start is just being more careful about what you allow partners to share. You're not going to change the U.S. government, but partners shouldn't be posting. You don't need to be a reference for your EDR company. Like they'll be fine.
True, very true.
You don't need to be on your EDR's website as a reference, so that everybody knows exactly which EDR you're using. So I know what to test against if I'm writing malware for you. Yeah, that's a huge leg up, right?
Yeah. Ken, the other area you got to touch upon too, the other big concern is like some of the tools that are going to be AI driven that do actual hacking and looking at ways of attacking a network as well.
Yeah.
Those are things I don't know, if anybody's really looked at the way things like, there's tools like Pantera and H3, and they're very good and they're very process driven.
Yeah.
But they're incredibly loud and they do things where I don't think they can attack. They don't do a good job right now taking multiple, vulnerabilities and chain them together to attack something. They're rather loud and noisy, but they will get better. They will get better. And my big fear is the threat actors that are out there will start leveraging those type of technologies somehow for themselves to become more efficient. And I think that's the other big issue too. We've got a huge issue in terms of like you said earlier about, what gets posted and what gets used and scraped and leveraged by AI. And now they combine that, the open source intelligence piece combined with the stealthiness of being a really efficient hacking machine. That scares me. That's where I'm frightened.
Yeah, and look, to me, context is everything, right? It's not just like a list of vulnerabilities or a list of things. It's you said something about the chain before. What's the attack chain? How can I move through this? If I know what tools you have, if I know what defenses you have in place, if I can start to kind of chain that together, and I think we have to obfuscate all of that data from people so they don't know exactly what all the context is. But we also have on our side, like I'm starting to see some good AI defense products that understand your context inside of your organization, map through all of that stuff, and start to help you with configurations, changes, things. Because again, it's over. You're commenting about the cost going up a little bit. It's going up a lot, there's so many CVEs, so many patches that have to happen. Most organizations are totally overwhelmed by the scale of it. And so, on their side, AI is making them faster. On our side, AI has to make us smarter. Like we've got to figure out like what are the attack vectors that are most obvious? How are things easily hit? How do these things line up in terms of assets to controls and compensating controls and the rest of that stuff? I think we've got to get a lot smarter on our side. And I think that, that's critical. I know. I just think we have to start looking for those benefits, because if we just keep applying, never mind, 2015 cyber defense concepts to 2025, we're never mind that we're not ready for 2030, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
True.
So I just see customers just totally, kind of, struggling with that space. And I'm trying. I mean, is there, you and I'm kind of bringing this up too, but I mean, you guys do a lot of pen testing. You guys do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. Do a lot of this stuff for me. Do you feel like your whole industry as a penetration testing cadence, does it need to change or move on or get more? Because I also know that you guys do more in-depth stuff. So I mean, like, I'm kind of frustrated by the customer getting the pen test checkbox on some level and feeling like they're safe. Like, do you think that how does that move forward? How do we make that a more effective process today?
I think the customers that are out there today, number one, penetration test, when you bring it up, you'll get 10 different, definitions of what's a pen test. So that's the one thing. So half the time you're an evangelist explaining to them, this is what we're trying to do. And it comes down to this. We're trying to mimic a threat actor now. If people are saying, well, what are you doing differently than, the other guys that are over there? It's like, listen, we're going to try to pretend we're from Russia or China. That's the goal here. And we're going to mimic a threat actor. Oh, by the way, the threat actor, when he rolls in, he's not going to run some automated tool. He's not going to run Nessus or Nmap. It's too loud. It's too noisy. None of those guys are doing it. They touch a device, they go away. And as they evolve and they start doing things, more efficiently and better, my big fear is like, there was one company we just talked to, and they were like, we're going to roll out enterprise AI within our environment. I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting. I said, how are you going to like kind of like, cordon off certain, segments of your business and so on. He goes, well, we never thought about that. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? You think there'll ever be a time where a bad guy breaks in there, not just leverages Active Directory for privileges, but starts using their own AI large language model against them to start building agents to say, you know what? Wait till 2 o'clock in the morning to start scouring through this segment of that network to figure out if there's any data worth exfiltrating and locking up. And I think that's where things are going to be different. Customers right now don't get it. Majority of them understand that perhaps, it's going to be a scan, pop a box, and then call it a day. That's not the way today's bad guy works. And the bad guys are smarter than we give them credit to. As far as I'm concerned, the most sophisticated criminal in the world. And the average person just assumes that, they're always doing what they need to do to say that they checked the box and did it properly. So.
Yeah, we're seeing that. Like again, I think again, it's a concept. We were talking before about how effective these tools are as code generators. Okay, so they're being used as code generators inside of all of our organizations, not just software companies we work with, but most large financial institutions really are technology companies. They develop a lot of their own code. So if I know all the developers are using this, these large language models to develop code, and I can somehow get in there and start to poison that, change it, insert my code. It's like the GitHub insertion. I mean, there's just, if I can get to it and I can affect it, I can, because again, they're doing so much code, like no one's checking it. Like there's so much code being auto-developed here. That's like, I like this conversation is talking about, these no codes. And I'm like, no code's not no code. No code's just some machine's writing your code, and the machine might be smart or dumb. Like but this whole motion to, anybody can write code now. It's all no code. We'll just do that. And I'm like, no, that's someone's writing the code. You better trust that machine that's writing your code, because that's what no code is.
Yeah, I don't know. They're cranking that stuff out so fast. It's going to be incredibly difficult to start containing it. So that's the big issue that's out there. We're going to see a lot. I get worried about the business in terms of like, where's it going to go, and are we going to be to like be able to figure out everything that's happening. It's moving really quick right now, And I'll tell you right now, bad guys I think are moving quicker because they're making so much money at it can, and that's the thing. My big fear is. So
Yeah. I
that
also like. I want to change your. But I mean, one of the things I think we need is I almost, because again, for the most part, many attacks that programs are someone sends an email, someone clicks on something, and then they're already in. So and at that point, they're basically absolutely privileged and moving. So it's like people. That's the new joke, right? People don't hack in; they log in,
Mhm.
and like I almost want to see your team start from an internal machine, like from like what if somebody clicked, like what would that look like if somebody clicked the link and you were already there, like that, that's that, because that stuff's gonna happen, right? I know you run
Right.
some I know you run some phishing, you run some phishing tests too, but I just feel like people need to look at that vector and not just feel secure. I can't believe how customers I talk to, and they feel secure because external pen testing seemed okay, and I was like, is that really your problem? Because sooner or later someone's clicking on something.
Yeah, you know what, Ken, it's been like that for years, and everybody makes the assumption that everything on the perimeter is hardened, but the inside isn't one big happy family, and that's the problem. And you spend time on the inside like every bad guy. You're grabbing hashes, you're cracking stuff, you're ever so cautiously moving around. You find one thing. It's a chess game, is all it is. You're
Right,
looking
right.
for one. You're looking for one device who would take advantage of to take advantage of another device, and then lo and behold, you become that privileged administrator, and then you have all this other stuff. Now, that may take what, 3, 4, 5 months for a bad guy to really get a good foothold. And as AI develops, just think about it. If they could use something like an agent on the inside there as well, and kind of automate that, I mean, it moves through a network much, much, much quicker, and then gains and yields so much more data quicker as well. And that's when the problem starts. So
I mean, is there a part? Is there a, like, again, just as a professional, red teamer attacker? Are there technologies that you think are, you know, more? Obviously, everybody needs a good EDR. Everybody needs a good SIM, like you said, and it's all about. To me, it's not really the tech; it's how you've implemented it, who's watching it. But still, I'm like, for instance, like a lot of people would say that, and I've said this to customers myself, that MF having good identity controls is huge because a lot of your lateral movement is basically identity, is that privilege escalation and identity movements. Would you agree with that? Are there ways around it? Like what when you're talking to people about the things that are the most important go-tos, what do you think they are?
I think EDR is an important thing. I think, looking at the individuals that are part of your network and managing Active Directory and cleaning it up is huge. And you guys know the tools that are out there to manage
Yeah.
AD and do Active Directory. Most companies, and we see a lot of it. It's unmanaged. It's not being well kept, and then threat actors leverage it and take advantage of it. The other thing too, Ken, that kind of irritates me is you got some threat actor moving through a network, touching certain things, doing things, and nobody's like watching it. But yeah, they spent the money and they bought the product, but they're like, yeah, we were going to hire somebody to do it. No, you need to do that now. It happens, and that's the other thing too. It's like, if you're going to spend the big check and put the tools in place to like catch something, you got to have somebody actually then monitoring it, watching it, and that's the part that people go, that's a lot of money, let's spend it. It's like, okay, well, just be prepared for the consequences. Um, so EDR, managing Active Directory, I think those are huge important things. User identity access management, I think is also important. Um, you know, I think those are the three that I would say are the most important. And then the other things like, doing smart things, just cleaning up your network and segmenting things, and then good policy control. And then kind of holding true to that stuff too. You know, we can generate all sorts of policies. I see people do it all the time. They just don't follow any of it. So pay the
Yeah,
consequences.
it's hard talking to customers, and I think because again, we deal with a lot of different size organizations, and some of them are very very big, and some of them are very very small. It's the middle space I think that's the most problematic for me, because I think the very small guys know they need to outsource. Like they go find somebody to run the SOC, run the SIM, run the stuff. They got a good EDR that has good oversight to it, and get they understand that they need help. The big companies actually have teams. Like they have huge teams and huge staff, whatever. I think there's this middle size of these companies I run into that have, one or two cyber people, maybe not even full-time cyber people, and they're buying their own tools and looking at their own alerts. And I'm like, there's just no way a couple of human beings can actively fight this. Or like small, like, we do our own red teaming. We've got a guy who does it as one of the 6 other jobs he does. So like, that's not a red team. Like so I think, one of the things that, one of my quotes is, there are probably 50 companies in this country that should have their own red team, and there's probably 500 that should run their own SOC. But other than that, everybody else should be looking for the right partners.
This is true.
So I mean, when you're talking to people about the red team, like, you sell this process, like, how do you, look, I know you guys are good at, but maybe you can give me some feel for like what, like, take me through some of the different things that you're doing that people just don't, and some of the different options that you're doing that people just don't think about.
For the red teaming efforts, I think the intelligence gathering, getting back to our AI discussion,
Yep.
is the key behind it, Ken. Because it's like understanding your victim is really going to be the big deal, and leveraging all that intelligence that's out there is what the bad guys are doing, and that's like building a plan to go after it. Once you're on the inside, take the path that perhaps will lead you to the most beneficial amount of data or whatever your mission is going to lead to. And I think it comes down to the intel that you can gather. So I think that's where our guys, or at least most red teamers that I think that's where they start. And then leveraging some of the tools that allow you to get a foothold that gives you, once again, it's a chess game. Getting one device that gives you the ability to move to another device to give us, a checkmate move that gives us privilege. So let's say, okay, I got DA, I'm ready to go, and that's what I think is going to happen. The bad guys are doing it, man. I mean, look what they're doing. They're inside of a network. They move around. They collect pieces of intelligence, and then, they go after whatever they can go after, and they find those data sources. When you go to the threat actor sites now, I mean, those guys are posting terabytes of content. They're building databases on the dark web when they're on their wall of shame, so you can go through it and say, oh man, they got this. Oh man, they got that. I mean, I think that's where a red team, when they mimic a bad guy, is where you're getting the best value for your dollar. And it will evolve with more tools leveraging AI to make us more efficient.
Right.
So
that's kind of what we're, again, one of the things we're concerned about is this sort of like this AI-based tool that becomes, once I have that first machine, I put my AI-based tool on it as an attacker, and the AI starts to get that process becomes more automated. Do you think is that far off? Is that far-fetched? Is that already happening?
I think it's already happening. I mean, I think there's agents that are out there that'll be AI driven that, they'll train and say, listen, be stealthy, do this thing like this way, make sure you're not detected. All the things that it needs to do, that, the average human or, threat actor would maybe get anxious and say, I'm going to move quicker. I think the AI engine will become more efficient at that. And
just
it's going to happen.
Low and stuff. Wow.
Yeah.
I definitely see that. Yeah.
Craziness, isn't it?
Yeah. No, listen, I think, and again, I think this is that it's going to take us some time to change our systems, do that. We need time. And that's why we need, I think why this is a good conversation to get people to kind of like start thinking about this now, put these things in place, because they're already starting to happen. They're not far off. And again, we can't kind of rest on our 2015 architecture. I know we've had this conversation a few times. So I think one of the things that, we see a lot, because I know you're involved with the recoveries too, is because AI helps them scale so much and do so much more stuff, whatever, it also helps them increase their number of attack. They're just attacking more and more companies. Like, it's not just banks. It's not just, we've seen so many attacks in hospitals, for example, and so many attacks like this, the number of attacks, smaller companies, smaller things are just exponential because it's easy to do and you can do a lot of them. I mean, are you, is that what you're seeing as well? I mean, you're seeing it kind of keep pushing down?
When it comes to the attacks that are out there,
yeah.
It's grown by 25% over last year, easy, from what we've seen.
Right.
And the way the threat actors are out there, they're actually doing things now where they're going after vertical markets, and they understand, certain victims better than, just, going out there. Right now, we're seeing a huge trend again in things like logistics companies, trucking companies that are out there. We're seeing another trend in, believe it or not, for schools. They hit schools, from time to time, but now for some reason there's been a big uptake on that as well. I think they're learning and they're doing things based upon what they've seen from previous victims. They're refining their skill sets and then they go after them. The other thing too that they're doing now is they're banding together and they're leveraging one another to become more efficient. Good example is a group called Dragon Force. Okay, Dragon Force is going out there. They're an affiliate site, much like Lockbit, and they're going, hey, come to us if you're a ransom group. Join Dragon Force. Use our tools. Use our wall of shame. Oh, by the way, if you want to keep your branding, you can just use our infrastructure and then keep your logo and your identity, but we'll use the back end and only charge you so much. So yeah, they're doing things. It's like they're creating cottage industries within their own crime industry. That we just did a listen to this, Ken. You want to hear some craziness? We just did a ransom. Company's getting hit. They're locked up. Threat actor says, okay, well, here's the ransom note that you can go on our site and look at it. And then they said, are you going to pay? And we asked the customer, do you want to pay? And they're like, we have to pay. So we told the threat actor, we're going to pay. They said, okay, we're going to pass you off to our third-party negotiator. I was like, excuse me, what? And they were like, yeah, we have a third-party negotiator. Their entire purpose is to negotiate the ransom, and they only get paid if they collect an actual ransom. So their goal is to go back and forth and actually figure out a way to get the most money out of the victim through us. And I was like, I thought I've seen everything in my day. When I saw that, I was like, this is not good. This is not good.
Professional negotiators. That's great.
They have their own, it's a whole cottage industry. Think about it. They got third-party negotiators. They got affiliate sites that actually represent the bad guy, or you can white label, or you can brand yourself. And then they got crazy, the crazy. Then if you want to like have software as a service, remember the days you could go out there, fully undetectable ransomware. You go out there, you sign up whatever you want to get, they'll build it for you. And now we're coming full circle, Ken. Now we got AI models or dark AI. They got, you know.
I'm not that close to retirement, but I am turning 60 this year. And I was worried about that I wouldn't have anything to do in my retirement. And now I have a retirement goal. I can become a professional ransomware negotiator. I can just have people.
You can.
It sounds like a fun way to spend my day. Negotiating for ransoms.
Although you may have to like bone up on some other languages like, Russian or whatever. But, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure you could translate that through some other AI engine.
Yeah, I can just get an AI engine to do the translation.
So yeah, interesting thing too. I'm turning 60 as well. So yeah, I guess we'll be doing this together.
We'll party together. Okay? Yeah. That's awesome. All right. So listen, this is, again, thank you so much for this very interesting conversation. I think is there any if you had some summary of what, I think the AI is real. I think we're trying to, I don't want to hype it, but I do want people to understand what's happening. And I think that was sort of my goal for this. Is there any, from you, like top things customers should be doing or thinking about from the perspective of being ready for how attackers use AI? Like what's your summary on that?
My thing right now, and I told all my people, we just wrote a policy and I was like, listen, you're not going to talk about anything about our business within ChatGPT. Yes, you want to write an email? Do me a favor, anonymize it so that it's as generic as possible, no specifics inside of it. All right. Don't start doing things like, uploading documentation to refine your language or write better, because once again, you're giving things that are going to be lost as a result of this, you're putting it into somebody else's bucket. Those are my big things right now. Be cautious about doing that, because just from our discussion earlier about giving up intelligence, and then good security practices. Change your password, make it hard, make it really hard. That's the other thing too. You know what, Ken? I'll tell you right now. I've seen it. I think if you think that your passwords have been compromised, I don't think there's anybody in this world that hasn't had their credentials compromised.
Right.
Yeah. So those are my two things for today.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be more next month.
Listen, I'm a big fan of passwordless. I don't know why everyone's like got biometrics. I'm like, listen, I don't passwords. We've been saying the passwords thing for about 30 years now. Maybe we should get rid of them. But what do I know? Well, terrific. Well, again, Stash, thanks for this. Always good talking to you. I appreciate seeing you. We'll have to get together and have like a birthday bourbon.
Sounds good. And thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Thank you, everybody. Bye.